Hello and welcome back. I am Sylvia Hartman, the creator of Modern Energy, and I'm reading out my book, How I Escaped the Trauma Cult, and you can too if you want to. This is Chapter 8, Escaping the Fish Tank of Insanity, and we're going to be talking about reality divergences, how the hope of healing was stolen, why the trauma cult destroys the most important relationships, the problems with narcissists, and the reclamation of our positive emotions. Let us begin. Escaping the fish tank of insanity. Whilst I was looking for entries for the A Few Statistics chapter, I came across this. Stress in America TM 2023, a nationwide survey conducted by the Harris Poll on behalf of the American Psychological Association APA among more than 3,000 US adults aged 18 plus. Nearly a quarter of adults, 24%, rated their average stress between 8 and 10 on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 means little or no stress, and 10 means a great deal of stress. I would like to draw your attention to the scale they were using for this poll. The scale goes from 0 stress to 10 stress. There isn't any not stress on this scale. There isn't any joy, any happiness, any love at all. The positive wing of the modern energy chart is yet again absent. I cannot overestimate the enormity of the problem with the conceptual absence of the happy emotions. Science loves to reduce reality to controllable variables you can duplicate in a test scenario, in a laboratory, or in running computer simulations. Reducing the complexity of something that happens to be complex in nature leads to a reality reduction, and that in turn leads to a huge problem, which I like to call a reality divergence. A reality divergence is when people believe one thing, but it's not true. For example, someone might believe that the sun is shining, but in fact it is raining. This naturally leads to the person becoming cold and wet, as they have taken no precautions against the rain. Now we have a reality divergence. We cannot explain any longer how we came to be wet. It's very mysterious indeed. As human beings, we try to make sense of our environments, and we have the capacity to come up with all manner of explanations as to why a person would get soaked freezing cold when it's a lovely day and the sun is shining brightly. When a reality divergence occurs, life becomes stressful. More and more stressful the longer it goes on, and the more reality diverged the people become. I think of this as a rubber band that is being stretched and stretched and stretched. Eventually, it will break and snap back into actual reality in a catastrophic fashion. In actual reality, and there really is such a thing, people do not just have negative emotions. To reduce a measuring instrument of emotions that is missing half the scale is a reality divergence. We have reduced the model so much it no longer either reflects reality or works in reality. The missing positive wing of the modern energy chart, which maps major emotion states, aka energy body states, holds literally everything that is important, that is precious, and above all else, that is true. It is my assertion that the closest any human being can get to understanding reality absolute is when they are in the highest possible energy state for that individual, at +10. I am not convinced we can live there. I believe that normal human beings go up and down on the entire modern energy chart, and that all of that is just part of the experience of being human. I do know, however, that by taking away the entire positive wing of the scale, we lose the goal to be as high as possible and as often as possible. We lose the way out of the fish tank of insanity. And I suspect that is why it was constructed, why all the measurements end at zero, and why it has been so effective in trapping people within it. Misdirecting attention to the worst energy states, the -7 moments, has directly created not just the fish tank of insanity, but also the hypersensitization to triggers and the inability of people who have been way too highly stressed all their lives to have any control over their emotions left. The focus on trauma has driven us collectively, societally, crazy. Psychology stole the hope of healing. Decades ago, I became aware of the fact that psychology does not have a healed state for bereavement. I'm sure you've heard of the 7 stages of bereavement. What is missing is the 8th stage, where the pain of bereavement has not just gone, but the loved one is present and a source of strength, inspiration, and support. The healed state of bereavement, which I call the immortal beloved, is completely absent, even as a concept. The very idea that a person could ever be healed of their emotional problems isn't there. We find the same thing with soldiers who are told that they now have PTSD, or the children who have ADHD and therefore need to stay on their medications for the rest of their lives. There isn't even any hope of a healed state here. And if you stop and think about it for a moment, what does it do to a person to live life without hope that it could ever get any better? Recently, I saw an article with the title that forgiveness is bad for survivors of child abuse. Forgiveness is something that happens naturally when the emotional pain has gone, has been healed. And when that happens and it doesn't hurt any longer, the person moves naturally and normally into the forgiveness states with their unique, positive, and beneficial emotions. In the trauma cult, however, you get to stay a survivor forever. You will never be healed. There's no such thing as a healed state. And now we make out that the very idea of forgiveness is actually bad for you, and we shouldn't even seek it. We have literally no idea how to treat you, how to help you, has metastasized into the outright lie that you can't be helped, that it is impossible, and you should give up trying to find healing, give up hope. Every time a person gets one of these multi-letter diagnoses with their prescriptions of the day inside the trauma cult, something truly terrible has happened to their spirit. But it doesn't even end there. Why the trauma cult destroys the most important relationships. The most fundamentally important relationship in any person's life is that with father and mother. I do not know when it was that I read in a list of how to identify a cult the entry about how cults break up the relationship the person had with their family. Of course, there's brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, grandparents, and all that, but the primary focus of cults is to destroy the relationship between a person and their father and mother, because that will also destroy the relationship with whatever social matrix father and mother operate within, free of charge and at the same time. All cults are good at this, and they have their various means and methods to accomplish this. The trauma cult of psychology tops them all. There is a tendency among young human adults during their teenage years to start to complain to each other about how terrible their parents are, stopping them from having fun, forcing them to work, interfering in their social connections, holding old-fashioned views, and on and on. You don't see this in younger children, but teenagers seem to do this naturally. You hitch your star to that wagon and really direct the young adult's attention to everything mother and father ever did wrong or failed to do, and you absolutely will sever the original relationship, destroy the original relationship. Let us be sure to note that this doesn't just happen when a young adult in the Western world enters into therapy. It is being prescribed all around in tropes, in every modality, constantly reinforced. And that's what cults like to do. Breaking up relationships has recently taken another massive threshold shift with the introduction of the idea that some people are horrible narcissists. This is yet another mental health diagnosis that is being flung around like so much manure with a strong fan behind it. And the symptoms of having a narcissistic parent or partner are likewise to be found if we stare blindly through the trauma lens and negatively journal every little indication of a real human being acting selfishly, wanting to get their way, looking out for themselves. The fact is, when we are stressed, low on energy, we will naturally engage in selfish actions. There is a direct correlation between a person's energy average and how emotionally disconnected they become, as well as how selfish they appear to be. This is a natural self-preservation process, so we can say clearly that anybody at all who becomes too stressed will show the 15 signs of being a narcissist, predictably, reliably, measurably. However, once we start labeling and dehumanizing a person as a narcissist, we are once more breaking those all-important, real energetic connections through which energy, attention, and love can flow. Predictably, this will destroy the relationship, and that's exactly what the cult wants. No relationship with a family, no relationship with a partner, and all that remains is the cult and the other followers. I personally am trying to create a matrix that helps people be less stressed, that works with the nature of people and not against it. And a part of that is to have strong, real, life-giving energy connections with the people in a person's life. Our energy bodies need to be fed by the energy of other people. There are different types of energy connections and different types of energy flows. But the most important and crucially important of them all are those primary relationships between a person and their mother and father. When this relationship is strong and works, everyone is happier, stronger, and healthier. When it doesn't, everybody suffers. Everyone becomes stressed. Stressed behaviors result, which include the endless search for replacement energy. The therapist becomes mother and father instead. The cult becomes the family. This is unnatural, unhealthy, and it doesn't benefit anyone at all. Please note that I just said it doesn't benefit anyone at all. Some might say, oh, it benefits the therapists. They're making lots of money from the endless circuits round and round the various fish tanks of insanity. If you count the best life only in terms of how much money a person gets to make, you might think that. I am pretty sure There are plenty of statistics about burnout and suicide in the psychology community, and I'm sorry. I'm going to restate this one more time. The unnatural, unhealthy trauma cult does not benefit anyone at all. It is a reality divergence. And as with all reality divergences, sooner or later we pay the price when the catastrophic snapback of the overstretched rubber band occurs and real reality shows us the error of our ways. Having good relationships, which are in fact real energy connections between our own living energy bodies and theirs, is of the essence for human health and happiness. It is also of the essence for human intelligence, logic, and the ability to create systems that aren't as damaging and reality reduced as what we have been dealing with in the past. The very first step to escaping the trauma cult is to reinstate the positive wing of the modern energy shard. Bring back the positive emotions. If you have come this far, I must presume that at least some of the things I have said resonated with you. I am now going to ask you to take a fresh look at the world and notice that people may well be stressed and going crazy, as is to be expected under the circumstances. But I want you to now also notice that people are still sometimes happy, sometimes successful, sometimes in love, and that they smile sometimes. You do too. You might do this far more often than you think, especially if you have spent an absolute lifetime only focusing on what's wrong with everything. And that's okay. Once we widen out our conception to include not just the negative side of everything, but also the positive side, we start a process of letting in more information. And information and energy are interchangeable. This is something I have found fascinating. When we work with someone's energy system directly, through EMO energy in motion, for example, and there's some kind of blockage that releases, it is always accompanied by a rush of information at the same time. People cry out, "Oh my God, now I understand," as they connect up various experiences, insights, and pieces of information that seemed disconnected, but now make sense. The more information we have, the better. And please let me explain. When I say information, I don't mean secondhand information that comes from written texts of other people. I'm talking about information about reality absolute, lived experience. Our lived experience needs to tally with the systems of information that we are using to think about them, to make sense of them. If it doesn't, bad things happen in mind, body, and spirit. Stress ensues, and as you know by now, once we human beings get too stressed, insanity, chaos, and destruction follow as truly as day follows night. However, it is only when we stop thinking of our lived experience and our personal truth in terms of nothing but trauma that we finally and truly escape the fish tank of insanity and enter into a very different world where hope, happiness, and love are so much more than just simple words.